I've had the good fortune to spend close to 50 hours in one-on-one conversations with the Dalai Lama over the last 7 years. Our dialogue was published in a 2008 book, Emotional Awareness. In 2012, we spent another 6 hours in a conversation about compassion. It was video recorded. Now, unlike our previous talks, there was a small audience present who you'll sometimes hear. This is the first of a series of webisodes, of excerpts from our conversation that I've selected. I'll post a new webisode on my website, www.paulekman.com, every 2 weeks. This one is 7 minutes. Some are a bit longer. I hope you find them as interesting as I did.
I think as a result of now people realize many problems today, including this country, like corruptions, you see, due to lack of moral principle. And also, you see, the problem, the mental problem, the unrest, some kind of disturbances in mental level. So modern education, not adequate. And 1,000-year-old spiritual tradition here also sometimes, I think, fail to make relevant today's world. One, too old, the modern thing, not much sort of involved with these things. So now, some universities, as I mentioned earlier, they begin to show now we need introduce in modern education system about moral ethics based on secular ethics, secularism.
The topic I want to talk with you about today and tomorrow is a topic right at the center of secular ethics. I call it global compassion. And it has become, in my mind, my central concern. And a growing concern. And that's why I thought it was so important to share with you where I've gotten in thinking about this, the new paths that I see that might be helpful, and the great hope, as we were saying in the other room, that we have a mutual process, that I'll learn from you things I haven't thought of. And so the vital problem for the world is for us to each feel towards total strangers the way we feel towards our family. That has to be achieved, and there are obstacles to achieving it, and that's what I want to talk with you about today. I feel a sense of urgency about global compassion, that time has run out. In the 19th century, you could read about the idea of interdependence, but you could live your own life. You didn't have, the lives of other people didn't impact on you. Now, with climate change, with water shortage, with food shortage, it is really necessary to find commonality.
Right. The 20th century become century of bloodshed. 20th century eventually become century of violence. Although that century, a lot of sort of wonderful things we human beings found, invented. But then all those, I think, wonderful sort of findings, science and technology, quite often become additional sort of source of destruction, source of problem, source of suffering. And such amount of suffering, bloodshed, really brought world better shape. Then there could be some justification about such immense violence. But that not the case. Even at the beginning of this century, there's some unhealthy things here and there. These certainly independently developed, but due to past mistake, past negligence. So now these ultimately genuine peace, non-violence, ultimately related with our emotion, our mind. So now the sort of teachings, preachings in various religious traditions is century-old going on, but more or less, you see, a little bit isolated. So not much influence in humanity in general. So therefore, now only sort of effective way to provide some sort of what's called a change or emotion only through education, not through religious teaching or religious or prayer. So now, how to introduce, how to bring the moral education for ethics in modern education system. If we sort of rely on religious sort of belief, religious faith, then what religion? There are many religious sort of belief. Some say God, some say no God, like that. So the conclusion, very easy. We must find ways and means to cultivate warm-heartedness without touching religion, using our common sense, and using mainly is common sense. Now here,
the Dalai Lama emphasized why he believes that efforts to achieve global compassion will be more successful if they have a secular, not a religious basis. He uses just once the phrase warm-hearted, which those of you who know Buddhist thinking will recognize. It's more than an attitude. It describes an orientation to life achieved through contemplative practice. You'll find out more about how to achieve it in subsequent webisodes. If you're interested in the ebook I wrote, which incorporated and elaborated on the ideas discussed in the webisodes, go to my website and look for the book, Moving Towards Global Compassion. I told the Dalai Lama that the research he had asked for when we first met in 2000, which would combine contemplative practice with modern emotional skills training, has been completed and published. Here's the reference. The next webisode will appear 2 weeks from the date this one appeared.